let's take it all the way back to the beginning when you're first thinking about starting.
Let's take
your
it way
passion,
back.
All right. A lot of what I hear you talk about is overcoming your own fear, overcoming your own, obstacles that were in your mind, psychological, philosophical, all those things.
Yeah.
Take me through those early stages of what you had to get over in your own mind and how you took steps to really accomplish what ultimately would be the beginning of your career.
I don't think that, we talk about fear for young folks in the context of how it applies to achieving goals necessarily. I think the kind of cultural connotation of fear, not doing well in school or not, meeting your parents' expectations or being a truant and getting in trouble. And I think we associate fear to pain and physical stuff. Where so much of really what inhibits us is our inability to kind of overcome that threshold of not wanting to be ridiculed, right? Or not wanting to be judged by your peers or others. And I don't think that it was unique for me. I just think the way I try to frame that as a conversation in the book Unlabel, it's one thing to say, well, I'm afraid of losing my shirt, losing your money and, risking it. But it's another thing to be afraid because you're afraid of how you're going to feel.
So in your early stages of business, when you were first, figuring out the first dozen shirts, not the first, 100 million, right?
Right.
What were some of those inherent fears when you were really just starting to figure out what you were even doing in a more professional sense? What were those initial things to say like, oh, wow, I've identified these things. I've got to find ways to get over these things.
Right. Well, the unique thing from my story, having come up with hip hop in the 80s and then kind of launching the business in 93, which was kind of the pubescent phase of hip hop, right? Like, the prepubescent phase where it's long and gangly, hip hop was dealing with its ability to monetize or not. And there was this tension amongst the artists and kind of the cultural scene, not just hip hop, but also skate, where, on one hand, there was a feeling, a sense that this thing could be explosive as an industry goes. And then on the other hand, there are people that were just blatantly commercializing it, right? So, late 80s, early 90s, MC Hammer, does a KFC commercial. People are making songs about sellouts and crossing over, and coming up with that as a cultural diaspora. I think I always had this sensitivity of not wanting to double cross and be perceived as that kind of quote crossover. And meanwhile, there was, white Jewish kid from Lakewood, New Jersey. Already I was an odd man out because I had this love affair and this affinity for the aesthetic of hip hop, namely graffiti art, the aesthetic of graffiti and how I was applying that to my art. So I think there was a lot of anxiety of ridicule, of like, oh, you're trying to commercialize, oh, it's for sale, and like, what would my peer group, who I so wanted kind of affirmation from, what would my peers think if I were to sell that person or, take my art and put it on a t-shirt and, and move from doing one at a time to, quote, mass production. Ooh, that's gross, mass production.
So I think that's a very telling sign of probably a lot of would-be entrepreneurs, just up-and-coming entrepreneurs, and they probably can't find a way to think through like that's the challenge they face. If you're talking to entrepreneurs today that are just getting started, that are trying to self-analyze their, things that they've got to get over, things that they're, really good at, if you have to sum it up in a single piece of advice to them, what do you say to them when it's about taking that jump, whether you're currently a corporate employee looking to make the leap into entrepreneurship, or you're at a plateau in your business and you're stopping yourself from taking that next step? What do you advise?
Well, I tell them, are they being emotionally honest and sober? I ask them, and I ask them to take an inventory of why. Why are they incented or motivated to do this? Like, what's driving them? What are they motivated by? Is it an external motivation? Is it money? Or is it because they want to be right, or they want to win, or they want a victory? The answer is not a one-size-fits-all, answer, nor is it a one-size-fits-all kind of question. I think the common thread that folks, entrepreneurs, aren't maybe cozy about discussing is what a emotional business this is. It's an emotionally grueling business. It is the full contact sport in the way that we get fired up and riled up when we're in a huddle, or if it's on the basketball court or in football or in a dugout or whatever your sport is, because we could dress it up at work and we can organize it in this kind of clean way where everything's crisp and buttoned up and there's a rigor and there's a decorum. We don't make room for the emotional realities that take place, on the field, in the office, in the pursuit of your creation, of your business, of your invention. I think that's, what the book tries to do, is try to talk about that and say it's okay to, kind of have a mirror around how you're feeling, because you're going to feel the way, that's for sure.